Well, good morning and hello everybody. I hope you're well and fit today. Well, sometimes grand plans come undone, and this week we have had 254 millimetres of rain, and as I'm talking to you this morning, Saturday morning, it is absolutely hammering down here in the mountains. Now, I've just been given an alert for the national parks and all the trails and all the pathways or the trails leading to all the waterfalls. They're all closed, so don't come up here. The weather is, quite frankly, looking out the window now, is absolutely atrocious. I know we need the rain in this country, but geez, we've had a lot. I know the north coast and parts of Queensland have been absolutely smashed as well, so it's working its way down into New South Wales and then up into the mountain regions of New South Wales where I live. So all the parks, national parks, and all the trails and all the bushwalking tracks that lead to some of the most magnificent scenery here in this country, is they're all being closed due to safety reasons. We have creeks flooding, we have tracks that are underwater, trees falling over as soon as you look at them, they fall over because the ground's that wet. So it's just too dangerous. So this week I had planned to photograph 6 waterfalls in 3 days, and unfortunately that's been blown out the window. So I thought I'd come inside the studio here and talk about something a little bit different that we can try in our photography, especially landscape photography. Look, what I want to talk to you about really is thinking outside the square and try something different. Now, what I was going to try and obviously film for YouTube was using a flash, an off-camera flash, to light up the foreground in front of me. And I had these particular spots or locations in mind, but unfortunately due to the weather and the cyclonic conditions that hasn't happened. But try introducing a flash to your landscape photography. Now, I've done this before and I've seen it done before. It's absolutely fantastic, especially if you've got a lot of greenery or rocks in front of you, and then the waterfall in the background. You can set your composition up and fire away that flash off camera at the foreground, and it just absolutely booms. It's a really good way of photographing the landscape, especially around waterfalls. So think about that. Think about getting down low and using a different focal length lens. I think we all fall into the trap of photographing with a very, very wide angle lens. Here I have a 50mm 1.8. Now, I intended to use this this week, but unfortunately, once again, I couldn't do it. But I was going to use that 50mm lens, and just the focal point would be the foreground, then the midground and the background. So what I was going to do, I was going to focus stack the images with that 50mm lens, predominantly focusing on the foreground first and making that the highlight of the image. So what I'm simply saying is try a different focal length, try a different lens. Don't go out all the time with the same lenses. Try something different, or try limiting yourself to just one lens. For me, I usually take 2 lenses, a 17-40 and a 24-105. Sometimes the 24-105 doesn't even come out of the bag. It stays nice and warm in the camera bag and doesn't come out. Other times it's in reverse. The 17-40 is not used. It all depends what I want to do. But the idea, or what I'm trying to convey to you today, is to try something different. Try and mix it up. Try and envisage a different image than what you see elsewhere. Get close to a subject. Photograph a lot of the foreground, or maybe get in the water with your tripod and photograph the waterfall that way. If you're photographing waterfalls, if you're photographing a seascape, try and photograph some rocks in the foreground, but get down really low and make that foreground really jump out and hit the viewer in the face, so to speak. So it's just something a bit different you can try. So try a different focal length lens, such as I've got the 50mm here. So that just makes it a little bit different for you. It gives it a different perspective, and it gets your creative juices thinking as to my next shot. And I always say that whenever you go out with your camera and you're going to take photos and you want to create some really nice images, every time you frame up and before you push that shutter button, you need to think that this is going to be the best shot I've ever taken. Because if you think like that, in the end, every shot you take will be better than the next one. Believe me, it works. This is coming from years and years of experience here. So think about that. Think about, I'm going to make this shot a really, really good shot, better than last time. So, and that does work over a period of time. But try a different focal length in your landscape photography, especially around waterfalls, if you like doing that like I do. Try different ISOs. Try different shutter speeds. Not every waterfall's the same. Sometimes the water is like a horse's tail. In this instance, for the next 2 weeks, the water will be like torrent coming over the rock faces or the face of the waterfall. So it probably won't be good for photography anyway, because you lose a lot of definition when the water's too much. You want it in between. Try and pick a very overcast day where you can obtain really slow shutter speeds, and then use a different focal length to create atmosphere. But try introducing external light, such as an off-camera flash, which is fired by a trigger. I was going to do a video on that, but unfortunately, as I said, been washed out. But try different things. Don't go out there all the time with the same lens and shoot the same way, basically like everyone else. Really, just try and change it up. Change the images. Give the viewers something different to look at. Basically, that's what I'm saying. So that's about it, really. Just think about something different. Next time you go out into the landscape, it doesn't matter what sort of landscape photography you do, think about using a different focal length lens. Either wide angle or a zoom, or something completely different like a fixed focal length lens, like an 85mm or a 135, or a 50mm or a 24mm, or even just a straight 14mm lens. It just gives your images a different perspective, and it's something different to look at, and it gets your creative juices flowing. So that's it. All it was about was changing it up, do something a little bit different with your landscape photography, starting with what lens you are using, and think about the other lenses that you haven't used. Maybe you should introduce them into your landscape photography. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Cup of coffee time. There's not much else we can do here today. We're stuck inside. I might vacuum a couple of my camera bags out or do something like that. But that's it for another episode of Sniper Photography. Thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, please feel free to subscribe and hit that bell next door so you don't miss anything. So as I always say, be nice to yourself, family and friends, but most of all, you keep shooting, and bye for now.